In 2012, the tennis world has been anything but predictable. The Australian introduced a new Grand Slam champion and saw the Grand Slam hot streak continue for the man from Serbia. Then came the reemergence of great past champions who put themselves squarely in the present. A breakthrough on the Olympic stage by the great Scot, and it seemed the entire UK stood up and cheered. While an all-time great experienced the highest highs and the lowest lows. That has reshaped the men's field here in New York. Hello, everyone. I'm Bill McAtee, and welcome to our U.S. Open preview here on CBS Sports. And as we get ready to set the stage for the final Grand Slam of the year, John McEnroe will join us shortly. But right now, I'm here with two of my other CBS Sports colleagues, Mary Carrillo and U.S. Davis Cup captain Jim Courier. Great to be with you guys once again. I can't believe, here we go again. It seems like we were just in Australia. The year was just getting underway. What are the things that make the U.S. Open, this venue, this time of year so special in the sport of tennis?
Well, especially in a season like this one, there's been so much tennis, including the Olympics, which has congested the summer schedule. Conspicuous in his absence, of course, is Rafa Nadal, the 2010 champion. Hasn't played a match now since the second round of Wimbledon, and we feel his absence, don't we?
Well, big time. And this tournament also will really decide player of the year in the men's side. We've had 3 different winners in the majors, plus Murray at the Olympics, which really is considered a major in the locker room. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how he evolves in this tournament. Where is his head going to be when he gets into a critical moment? He should be brimming with confidence. He's finally pushed through the other side in a big moment in his career where he kind of pushed back against it before.
Jim, as a former player, what are the things that make this a difficult event to win? What are the things that you have to deal with it? People may not know.
Well, first of all, this year is particularly difficult because of the grind of throwing the Olympics into the middle of your summer. So these players, a lot of them are running on fumes, and I think we'll see some upsets, frankly. Maybe not at the top in the men's side, but I think in the middle sections you might see some upsets early that you wouldn't see. And this tournament, it is a grind in general. You can get some muggy conditions. It can be very warm in the first week in particular. And everyone can just be a little bit cranky, to use one of Mary's words, because it's been a long, hot summer.
That's true.
We are going to break down each of the draws coming up shortly. But for both of you, what are your headlines here going into the Open?
Serena, Serena, Serena. I mean, on the women's side, she is unignorably, even though she's only seeded number 4 here, she's got to be the favorite. She's won the U.S. Open so many times. She just finished winning Wimbledon. She blistered through the Olympics draw. Really, the only one who can stop Serena is herself.
Before we turn to the men, is she playing as well as you've ever seen her play?
At the Olympics, she played better than I'd ever seen her play. But she's had a rough couple of the last couple of times she's played the U.S. Open. Things haven't gone exactly her way.
And let's not forget Kim Clijsters, by the way. This is her swan song. This is her last tournament she's going to play. She's played exceptionally well here, so that's another story we'll be following, of course.
All right, so we've got a lot to cover. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, 5-time U.S. Open champion Roger Federer will be with us, and 4-time U.S. Open winner, our colleague John McEnroe, will be here later to help us break down both the men's and women's draws.
CBS Sports presents the U.S. Open Preview Show, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, the official vehicle of the 2012 U.S. Open. Xerox. With Xerox, you're ready for real business. Official sponsor of the U.S. Open. And by Heineken, proudly served at the U.S. Open. Enjoy responsibly.
He has been one of the game's greatest champions, continuing to rewrite the record books even at an age when most players have already made their final entries. Roger Federer just turned 31, but is back to number 1 in the world, is coming off his 7th Wimbledon title, his 17th Grand Slam singles championship overall. He had a big run last week, winning in Cincinnati to get ready for the Open. And Roger joins us here at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center here on CBS Sports. And thanks for being with us, Roger.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
31 years old, and I'm wondering if you have surprised yourself a little bit with how well you've been playing, especially over the last 8 months or so.
Well, I guess once the ball gets rolling and you get confident and you get hot, you can, play well on many of the surfaces because of it having slowed down over the years, I think now. And I've been playing well really the last years actually. I just had some ups and downs at times, some tough losses from time to time, but overall I played very consistent at the majors still, and I won my fair share of tournaments always throughout the year, so I always felt like it was right there. But then guys like Djokovic or Nadal or Murray got on a tear and they won some stuff that I couldn't, and then obviously you drop in the rankings from time.
Seven titles this year. I'd call that your fair share, Mary.
So you won this 5 years in a row,
right?
Which was a little ridiculous, kind of like dominating on grass. The last 3 years, you lost you lost tough ones.
Tough ones, yeah.
5-setters and
3 5-setters in a row. Actually,
3 5-setters in a row, and against Djokovic in the semis the last couple of years, you had match points. Do you remember more those last couple of matches you've lost, or the 5 you've won, now going for 6?
No, it's got to be it's got to be the 5 I won. I mean, if I start like going down on myself thinking, oh God, I should have won all those 3 other ones too. I probably won a lot in those 5 years as well that I should have lost maybe, but I found a way, and then nobody ever talks about those tougher ones, But it's true that, some hurt me. I think the Del Potro match maybe hurts me the most.
Wow, really?
Just because that was the finals, that wasn't the semis. I really felt I should have won. I think I could have gone up 2 sets to love. I was so close serving for the set, I think. Ended up losing that. So the Djokovic one, if I win that match, I don't know if I'm going to win the title yet. But it was in that very moment, it was 2 very tough losses, because losing with match points is just really the worst thing as a tennis player.
Well, we're getting ready to go here, and the draw is out. And the good news for you is you won't be able to play Djokovic in the semifinals this year because you're 1 and 2 seeds. But Murray is on your half, and that was a big flip of the coin. Your thoughts on having him in your section as opposed to Federer with Rafa's absence?
Well, obviously I have a great record against Federer, so probably I would have preferred to have Federer in my section over Murray, particularly also Murray just beating me in the Olympic final, and it seems like he's really getting confident from the Olympic gold, and on hard courts he's always played well here. I don't really recall that he's ever had a bad US Open, so I think that makes him tough, but then that's in the semis, so some way to go for him, some way to go for me. So my focus needs to be on the early rounds, that I don't get too excited that I've played almost only at least semis in all tournaments I played this year. I have to first get there, and that's my focus. I think it's Donald Young in the first round, an American player who can play extremely well, especially in America on the hard courts, and the US Open should really do that trick for him to be able to come up with the best play, and that's where my focus is right now. But like you said, Djokovic is not my section. I guess that's also a good thing, because I did lose to him the last couple of years in the semis.
How big was it for you to win at Wimbledon this year? I obviously they're all important, they all are meaningful, but I saw you afterward and there seemed to be just a little extra celebration for you. It just seemed to resonate a little more than the others.
Well, there was a lot on the line, let's not forget that. It wasn't just, okay, you win Wimbledon for the second time, you were able to defend your title. It wasn't one of those things. It was one like, am I ever going to win a Grand Slam again? If I do so, can I win more again? That is on the line. It was the 17th, so that's another, record further away from someone else, which is just incredible. I can't believe I did that. Getting back to world number 1, that was a big thing, a big goal for me. Ever since I lost world number 1, I saw I was 1 week away from Pete. I couldn't believe it worked out that way, But so it all worked out perfectly. I had a great 12 months, like you mentioned, and so I couldn't have been more happy, because I left Wimbledon, went on vacation, and the following week I broke Pete's record, so it was another celebration. And then I came back to the Olympics, and there I just had a blast, of course.
It's something that you went 28 months without winning a major, and now you can win your second in 3 months.
Right, exactly. And you get carried away, you think, okay, now I won Wimbledon, so you got to win the Open. And then I don't win the Open, then I'll never win a Slam again. Right. So it's fast-moving pace, and that's where you got to, just stay calm about it and not let it get to you. But I've never played a bad US Open, except maybe in the qualies back in '99.
But so, who remembers?
Exactly, who remembers? I do. But you really try not to underestimate anybody right now.
Roger, thank you very much for coming and being with us. And good luck over the next couple of weeks.
Hopefully it's going to go well.
Coming up, John McEnroe will join us. We'll take a look at both the men's and women's draws when we return to New York in our US Open preview here on CBS Sports. A look back at 2011 when the U.S. Open welcomed a pair of first-time champions, Novak Djokovic and Samantha Stosur. And now we welcome a four-time U.S. Open champion to our set, our friend and colleague, John McEnroe. Good to be with you, John.
Nice to see you all. It's good to be back once again.
When you come back here, being a New Yorker, having the success you've had here, how does it feel for you?
Well, it feels amazing, obviously. I go back to even Forest Hills, was where they used to play the Open. I was happy they made the move here because they ended up going from a clay court surface at that time to a hard court surface, and this is sort of a noisier atmosphere, which I felt like suited my personality better.
Just a bit, yeah.
And for the most part, the memories were great. But this is where it all really started happening for me.
Well, as always, going into the U.S. Open, there's a lot to talk about. Let's begin with Roger Federer, back to #1 in the world, 17 Grand Slam titles now. What are your thoughts on the way Roger's playing coming into the U.S.
Well,
Open?
I'm going to start with the fact that I think he's the greatest player that ever lived, and I think I've talked about that. I'm real disappointed not to see Rafa Nadal here. But having said that, I thought Roger would win another slam, and I thought Wimbledon would be his best bet. I didn't think that he'd get all the way back to #1 as well. I think that surprised a lot of people. That shows you, to me, a couple things: how dedicated he is, how much he loves to play, and how great he really is. He actually played a lot more tennis than even Djokovic or Nadal, the younger guys, presumably hungrier guys like an Andy Murray. So I give him a ton of credit. I've always envied, to some respect, how much he really seems to enjoy himself on the court, where I got filled with a little bit more angst when there was a little bit more battle going on within. So it is tremendous to see it someone 30-plus. You know, we saw it with Agassi. We saw it a bit in my day with Jimmy Connors, that they could play late into the 30s and be so good. It's really something that is great for our sport, obviously.
I think the key with Roger, too, for his longevity, the guy has scheduled himself so beautifully from the beginning. I mean, to the chagrin of the Davis Cup organizers, he's rarely played Davis Cup because he needs those breaks in his schedule. And he's just taken a month off here, 6 weeks off there, while the rest of the guys are chasing their tails looking for ranking points. Roger didn't come after the Olympics to play in Toronto, which Novak Djokovic did. Djokovic won there, which is great, but Djokovic was on fumes by the time he made the finals of Cincinnati. Roger was fresh and beat him down pretty good. So Roger's always had his eye on the long ball, which is to his credit.
You know, another over 30 who could be back to #1 sometime soon? Serena Williams, 31 years old. I mean, remarkable how well she's playing.
Well, I've always thought that Serena's the greatest female player that ever lived, and I've seen Steffi Graf, and we're friends with Billie Jean King, and Martina Navratilovan's in the mix, but Serena is the greatest overall package to me. So I sort of would hope and pray that she will hang around another 2-3 years, because I'd like to see her get close to that level of 20-ish Grand Slam titles. Looks hungrier and happier. I mean, she absolutely demolished everyone at the Olympics, so that was exciting to see. And to me, if she plays her A game, she's going to win the thing. If not, it would be a Sharapova. Those are the two to me. After that, it becomes a crapshoot.
Why is Serena such a difficult opponent? What are the things that she does at such a level that makes it impossible when she's at her best to beat her?
She's so intimidating. I mean, her serve is by far the best a woman has ever shown on a tennis court. When she is fit and focused, as she has been, you know, over the summer, there's just really no stopping her. The force of her game and her personality out there has done a lot, and she's had some disappointing U.S. Opens the last couple of years. 2 years ago, she couldn't even play because she had an injury. 3 years ago, she lost to Clijsters, kind of lost it. Last year in the final, same thing happened. She kind of lost it against Sam Stosur. So that's what makes me think she's going to want to win this more than anybody else in the field.
Well, what about players who might be able to threaten her, who she has to worry about if she's not at her best?
I think Petra Kvitova's got a lot of game. I'm not sure that she's in top shape. I think that she's got another level to go physically to compete with Serena at her best, because she's got big ball striking ability. She's got a great lefty forehand, and the leftiness helps. I'm sitting by a couple of them right here who know a thing or two about that. But she's a really great talent. You know, Azarenka had a great start to the season as well. She was undefeated for the first couple of months of the year, won the Australian Open. She's a great mover. I mean, if you're going to beat Serena, you have to move, because you're going to be playing defense against her a lot of the time.
Which is why the 2006 U.S. Open champion and this year's French Open champion, Maria Sharapova, has had so many problems against Serena. But she knows how to win the Open, and she's got to be hungry.
Serena burned out a little bit in the finals last year. I mean, that's what players have to hope, that she's either A, tired physically, or that mentally she's not there. Otherwise, I don't see her losing. But I do give credit to Azarenka. She started the year great. I think the pressure, as it's gotten to a lot of other top female players, got to her when she hit #1. But now she has a chance to play, to me, on her best surface and sort of finish the year with a bang and potentially really legitimize that #1 ranking. So I think she would be the one to watch if it wasn't for the top two we've been speaking most about.
All right, let's go back over to the men for a second now. We talked about Roger. We touched on Rafa not being here. How big was it for Andy Murray, do you think, to win the Olympic gold medal?
Well, that's a great question that I don't think any of us know the answer to right now as we speak. I'm hopeful that it had a big impact because certainly the pressure, I mean, for anyone that goes to England every year knows that I don't think there's a single athlete except perhaps a couple of the Olympic Games that experience that level of pressure every single time they step on the court. So I give him credit that he was able to sort of use that sort of the pulse of the crowd, which I finally saw where they were like 90% in his favor, was really lifting him, and I think annoyed Federer. And given the fact also that they made it a one-week event instead of two, really helped the younger player there. But this, again, as we know, is going to determine the #1 ranking quite probably. So this is an incredible opportunity for Murray that, believe it or not, if he wins this, goes on a bit of a tear the rest of the year and wins the Masters, could have an argument made that he could be the best player in the world for this year. And that's a nice thing to have in your pocket.
I think if he wins this tournament, he absolutely is the best player in the world this year. Whoever of the three guys who've won big tournaments this year wins the U.S. Open, obviously Djokovic and Roger and Murray, those guys are going to have, in my view, the claim to being player of the year. Unfortunately, Rafa's not here. We really wish he was here, but we've got 3 of the 4. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
And on the women's side, the same thing. If Maria wins her second major of the year, if Serena wins hers, if Vika Azarenka, as John said, a very good hardcourt player, that, in my mind anyway, the winner of this event, if it's among those, is the best player of the year.
Oh, and by the way, Novak Djokovic, defending champion a year ago. That's all we could talk about. He'd had was having one of the great years in tennis history. So where is Novak with his game?
Djokovic had one of the great years in winning 3 of the 4. So I think that it was inevitable that there would be a letdown. I think he's about 80 to 90% of what he was, but that's still good enough to win a major and be there at the end at the end of the big ones. I still think that in his mind, he's been pointing towards this event to sort of finish off the year and be able to sort of steal the #1 ranking right here and do it again. And I think he's got a great chance to do it because he really has not played up to the level of what he did last year. So he's got an opportunity here. My question is, does he have enough left mentally? Is he spent to some extent so that he can't get all the way done?
Well, he certainly looked spent in Cincinnati last weekend. I think the week off will have done him good. He talked about going to New Jersey, holing up, getting some rest for a few days, and then starting to train. So I think this is a great surface for him. Novak is a slight edge favorite for me in this tournament. He played unbelievably well in Australia this year on the hard courts. He's been the best hard court player for the past couple of seasons.
Wow, I can't wait. And we'll be back in a moment with some final thoughts from New York, our U.S. Open preview here on CBS Sports right after this. Welcome back to New York as we preview this year's U.S. Open. And, John, we haven't talked about the American men.
Yes.
So, John Isner, the #9 seed.
Well, I'm a big Isner fan. I mean, #1, he's come from the college system, which I still believe could produce tennis players. So, and he's maxing out. I think he's really done well for himself the last couple of years. And if there's ever an event where he can make a run to a semis, this is the first time where he wouldn't have to play one of the big 4 because Nadal out. He's in the quarter he would dream to be in, and this is his surface. I say if there's ever, please, John,
take a shot.
American tennis, semis at least, please.
Jim?
Well, and there's some other guys having success on the American side, too. Andy Roddick and Sam Querrey won tournaments in the U.S. Open Series this year, and Marty Fish has come back from a pretty nasty heart scare earlier in the season and has played very well leading into the Open. So we've got some hope there. It's going to be fun to watch.
And Mary, the American women?
Sloane Stephens, we got to keep an eye on her because she's been playing in the majors this year and really lighting it up, not just with her game, but with her personality. And 32-year-old Venus Williams, 2-time champion here, won the Olympic doubles with her sister, has played some nice-looking hardcourt ball this summer. I'm going to be watching her, too.
All right, great. Can't wait to get started. For John McEnroe, Mary Carrillo, Jim Courier, I'm Bill McAtee. Our thanks to Roger Federer for joining us. And from all of us, we'll see you next weekend here at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center for the U.S. Open on CBS.